like there are so many things you need to practice that you don't know what to do first and you end up not doing anything because you just feel overwhelmed? Well, that was me years ago. But then I realized that there are 4 main aspects that needs to be included in a good practice routine to get progress. So in this video, I will explain what are these 4 main aspects, how much time you should spend on each, and what you should practice. And if you'd like to have my practice guide to help you out with your daily practice, you can download it for free down below in the description. So the first aspect you should have in your daily routine is a warm-up section. And this should represent about 10% of your practice time, and it's usually simple exercises just to move the fingers on the piano. So for example, it could be the 5-note scales up and down, or it could be a hand exercises, or anything from my technique books, Train Like a Rockstar. So for example, an exercise that I love to do is playing thirds up and down the piano. So if I take just the C major, and simply moving thirds up and down like this. It's a great exercise because you can actually transpose this in different keys. So this is for C. I could do the same thing for D major. It simply follows the scale. And we could also do this with different type of chords. So these are using the major chord, but I could do the same thing using minor chords, diminished chord. So there is so many different ideas that you can do using only third moving up and down. So this is a really great exercise to start with your warm-up section. The goal of the warm-up is really to start playing and try to focus on a specific aspect of your technique, such as finger independence or hand independence. The second aspect of your practice is all about scales, arpeggios, and chords. And it's about 20% of your practice time. It covers technique, but also very important theory skills. So here I recommend picking a key of the week and practicing the scale, the arpeggios, the chord inversion of that key. So for example, if my key this week is like G major, I would practice the G major scale like this. The arpeggios, and the chord inversion. Up and down like this. You could also do that for 2, 3, or 4 octaves if you're at that level. Also, I would cover the relative minor of G major, which is E minor. So E minor, we could do the E natural minor, up, the arpeggio, and the chord inversion. Like this. Try practicing these with a metronome, not too fast, so you can eventually push the tempo up. So the secret in this step is using like this block of key with the major and the relative minor and practicing it together. So you can move up each week with a new block. This way, each week you work on a different key and it's gonna make you progress a lot. And by the way, just as a reminder, if you'd like to have my practice guide to help you out with your daily practice, you can download it for free just below. Now, for the third aspect of our practice, it's all about chords. And I suggest using 20% of your practice time for this. Since chords are what we're going to be using to play songs, we need to work on them separately in our practice routine. So this section is where you want to learn the chord symbols and how to add simple rhythm to chord progression. So for example, you can pick a chord progression of the week. Let's say we have the 1, 6, 4, 5 to practice this week. And since we were practicing the key of G major in our scale, we can keep the same key here. So the chord progression in G major is going to be G, E minor, C, and D. And you want to start practicing this in root position just like this. But then you want to start from different chord inversion to really have control over what you're playing. So for example, if I start with the root position of G major, so you have G, then we're moving to E minor using the chord inversion here. So this is the closest option that we have from the G, the E minor, then the C, and we go to D. And this is the first step that you can learn, is starting from the root position. But then you want to move up to the first inversion and do the exact same thing, because it's going to change everything here. So G, going to E minor. This one is a different chord inversion, to C and to D. If I do the same thing again, I'm going to use the second inversion. Let's start lower here. So we have G, E minor, C, and D. And when you practice this, you're actually practice just like a song. You're getting ready to be able to move from one chord to another and figure out all the different options that you have. So this is really key when you start learning all the chords. It's really to see all the different options. When you're comfortable with this, you can go from one chord to another. You can start adding some rhythm. So let's say we want to be playing some pop ballad. So I could use a broken chord in exactly this chord progression. So what if I start from this chord inversion right here? Let's do this here for the example. So I could have... So that could be an example of things that you can do. So now I have a tempo, I have a pattern, so I'm practicing the chords, rhythm. I'm also practicing cool patterns that you can even add to songs. This section is so important because this is exactly what you're going to be using in your songs. And then the next week, you can simply transpose everything you've learned here in a different key and try to have fun adding some different patterns. Now, this aspect is for all the song you love and your repertoire building. So this should be about like half of your practice time, because this is why we learn to play an instrument. So just pick a few songs that you love and start learning them. You can make a wish list of all the songs you want to add to your set list and just start having fun using everything you've been practicing in the previous aspects. This is all about implementing and creating music. Now, I wanted to add a section that is more of a bonus section to focus on an extra skills that you want to develop. So you don't have to add this if you're just starting out, but this section can actually cover sight reading, ear training, rhythm, improvisation, and anything that will make you a better musician. So I suggest choosing one skill to improve at a time and add it to your routine. All right, now let's talk about the famous question, how much time should I practice? So it really depends on your goals. And let's be honest, the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. There is no secret here. But I want to give you an average of time to help you get started. So if you're just starting out, try to aim for 10 to 20 minutes, maybe 2 to 5 times a week. Just start playing. You'll see that if you add aspect 1 to 4 in your practice, it's very easy to fill up 20 minutes of practice. But if you've been playing for a while and you're around the intermediate level, you should try doing sessions between 25 to 35 minutes, maybe 4 to 5 times a week. But at this level, you can easily practice for 45 minutes. And if you're an advanced player, I recommend practicing at least 45 minutes between 5 to 7 times a week. But to be very honest, you should be practicing around 60 minutes almost every day to see real progress. Now, this is really just to give you an idea. So start by choosing how long you want to practice, and then you can separate your time using percentage of the different aspects to adapt it. So a practice routine for a 30-minute session could look just like this. The aspect number 1, the warm-up, is 10%, so it's like 3 minutes. Then we have aspect number 2 for the technique of 20%, it would be like 6 minutes. Aspect number 3, we have chord for 20%, and it's like 6 minutes. And aspect number 4 for songs, it's 50% of your practice time, so it's like 15 minutes over the 30 minutes. That's just an example of something that you can do to have a balanced practice routine. You can move around with the percentage to create your own practice routine based on your goals. So there you go. This should give you a good start to build your own perfect practice routine. Always try to sit down at the piano with a plan so you know exactly what to practice and how to use your time properly. All right? Thank you so much for watching. And if you've learned anything valuable from this video, please subscribe to this channel for more tips. All right? Bye for now.